Okay, so now we're going to flip the record over, so to speak, and talk about some side twos. So we said at the beginning of the video that we both found it more difficult to come up with some side twos. I was racking my brains because I knew that there were some. I knew at the back of my mind that there were these albums where it all just kicks into gear in side two. Side one is okay maybe, but then something happens on side two. There's a better song selection, and I wanted to show Squeeze. It was going to be this one or another one. There was another one I was going to show, Sweets from a Stranger. In the end, I went for this one because it's quite simple, really. This one, side two, has got Up the Junction and Cool for Cats on it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's fairly straightforward. Two of their biggest, best songs. And it's got Goodbye Girl as well. So on side two, you have three really big, major, popular Squeeze hit singles. Well, Goodbye Girl wasn't a hit at the time, but it's become retrospectively one of Squeeze's most popular songs. So, and side one has only got Slap and Tickle, which is not one of their best singles really, and the rest of side one is kind of okay, but it's not really as good because on side two, even the album tracks are really good. You've got Slightly Drunk, which is fantastic, Hop, Skip and Jump, which is great fun. I've always loved Hard to Find as well, which is a very kinky Christopher led song. So yeah, side one is okay, pretty good in places. Side two takes it over the top. Squeeze, Cool for Cats.
Agree, 99%.
Oh,
I
go
think
on.
the one song I don't like on side two is Hop, Skip, and Jump,
Okay.
uh, but that's minor. And for it to open up side two as well, I thought was a bit daring, really. But yeah,
Okay.
I agree. Well, I'm going back to the 1960s here. And I think side two of this album is better than side one. And it's
Okay.
their Majesty's Request. The side one opens okay with Sing This All Together, but it's nothing special. It's just a bit of a sing along. Citadel, it's an okay standard sort of Stones rock song with a little bit of psychedelia about it. In Another Land should never, ever, ever have been on a Stones album. It's a Bill Wyman solo song, and
Mm,
I think it was released in the States as a Bill Wyman single. Why on earth did they put it on? Right, 2000 Man, I do like, yes.
mm,
Then you get the absolutely dreadful Sing This All Together, See What Happens, which is
mm.
a waste of tape or a waste of vinyl or a waste of CD or whatever format it's on is a waste.
It's terrible.
And it's dreadful. And now you think if We Love You and Dandelion, because both of them would have fit on that side, had have been on, it would have made this such a really good album. However, side two starts with She's a Rainbow. It's a delicious song. It's absolutely beautiful. And I really do like The Lantern. I think it's very atmospheric and it's very moody. And Gumper with the sitars, I think is great. I think it's got a really good, almost sitar lick to it, although it does go on a bit. It's over 5 minutes long. 2000 Light Years from Home is brilliant, Stones. Absolutely brilliant. And then on with the show is their like the Kinks type track, which they did on the previous album, McCook Cam Collected, and Something Happened to Me Yesterday. It's one of those type songs, but I do like it. Side two by far
Mm.
is better than side one on this album for me.
Well, that's fortuitous because I've been streaming that album this week, so it's quite fresh in my mind. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I wouldn't agree that the Bill Wyman song shouldn't have been on because it does make me laugh when I hear it. Just because Bill Wyman, he's one of these guys. I don't think he ever took any psychedelics, did he? He wasn't impressed by that scene, and it's just like just trying to sort of think your way into how does Bill Wyman kind of end up writing and recording that song for the Stones, given his background and given how skeptical he was about the whole thing. It does kind of put a smile on my face, really. But no, side two definitely really strong, and I think you're right. I think side one is just let down by that dreadful reprise, and
Mm.
it's just such a waste of space and time. God knows what they were thinking. It's a classic example, isn't it, of going, yeah, this band is basically taking too many drugs in the studio, messing about, just losing focus. Something the Beatles never did. There you go. Get that quick little pro Beatles, anti Stones dig in there. Right. So this one jumped into my mind very clearly, and now this is an example of a record which has the best song on the album is probably the first song on side one, and
Mhm.
yet side two is better than side one. So the opening track, Tug of War, doesn't make side one the better side. Now, I do love Take It Away, I think it's a fantastic song, great arrangement. Somebody who cares, I don't like as much as I used to. I find it a bit cloying. What's That You're Doing? I've actually always quite liked it, but it's far too long and it's more of a Stevie Wonder track than a McCartney one. Here Today, I know you're not a fan of that song. I quite like it, but I don't think it's top tier McCartney. Side two, however, pretty much all the way through is fantastic. Ballroom Dancing, fantastic. Powder Sinking, fantastic. Wanderlust, fantastic. Get It is not fantastic, but I totally love it. I love the the Carl Perkins thing with him laughing at the end. I love the link, the Be What You See link, the way it goes from Carl Perkins laughing into the kind of weird vocoder thing. Brilliant. Dress Me Up as a Robber, I think, is brilliant. And then Ebony and Ivory, just, it is what it is. But I've never disliked it. I've never had a problem with it. It is Ebony and Ivory, really, at the end of the day. Could he have ended side two with something else and made it better? Maybe he could, but I still think it's a really, really brilliant side two. Side one is maybe kind of, 7.5 out of 10. Side two, 10 out of 10, no question. Tug of War.
I agree 100% this time, yes. It's a wonder I never picked that. I never thought of it, but yeah, I totally agree. Side two is by far the best. And I also agree that the best song is Tug of War. Well, that and Wanderlust, I can never make my mind up which is better. Well, this one, I don't know if you will agree what I'm going to say here, and you might not. But this actually shows, this is a band with 4 different songwriters. And it showed that one songwriter in particular during this phase of the group was by far the better.
Moody's? Queen.
That's Queen 2.
Yeah.
Now, this is split into 2 sides. It's the Brian May side with the Roger Taylor track thrown in and the Freddie Mercury side. And to me, the Freddie Mercury side wins hands down. It starts off okay with Father to Son. It actually starts off with the, what's it called? The Procession. Yeah, Father to Son, which is good. It's fine. White Queen's a bit of a dirge. It really is. And Someday, One Day, I think it's a decent song. It's a little bit like Long Away and a little bit like 39. It's that almost acoustic type song.
Yeah, folky.
Loser in the End's not bad either. However, side 2 with Ogre Battle, what a track. And then the Fairy Feller's Masterstroke. That is weird as hell, but it's so good. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. I wish it was about 10 minutes long. It's brilliant. Nevermore, the obligatory little piano ballad, beautiful. March of the Black Queen, the precursor of many say the Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't see it. I just see it as a prog song, but it's excellent. Funny How Love Is. You've got your pop song, and then Seven Seas of Rye, which is a fantastic single. I think Mercury in '74 was on fire. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like the Brian May songs, but I think it was wrong to split them into 2 sides because it just shows that Mercury was ahead of the game a little bit more around that time. Deacon hadn't yet written one, unfortunately, but Queen 2, side 2, without a doubt. The black side, I think it is.
Side Black, yeah. When I was a kid, I didn't like Side Black. It was too much for me. I think I was too young for it. I couldn't process all the musical information. There's just so much going on. Whereas Side White seemed to be a bit more, oh yeah, I can get my head around this, just individual songs. However, I've always thought that Loser in the End sticks out like a sore thumb, really, at the end of Side White. I don't agree about White Queen. That's a song I've always loved. I do love Father to Son as well. It's a tricky one, that. Historically, for me, I preferred the first side. I think, objectively speaking, I think you're absolutely right. I think Side Black is pretty monumental, really. Good stuff. I'm pleased that Queen featured. Right, now this next one is the only example I think I have in my list of albums where for years and years I preferred side one, but then I think because maybe side one became a bit too, played it too much, listened to it too much, and the big songs were on the first side, therefore the second side to me now seems more fresh and I can enjoy it a lot more. And side 2 of Full Moon Fever for me has really, really come into its own. I always loved the version of Feel a Whole Lot Better, which I actually heard before the Byrds version, and I'll be shot down in flames now, but I prefer it to the Byrds version. I'm not saying it's better, but it's the one I heard first. You're So Bad is a fantastic song, which I know Jeff Lynne helped him write that one. Depending on You maybe not quite so good. The Apartment Song, brilliant. All Right for Now, good. And Mine with a Heart of Its Own, I love it. I love the Bo Diddley rhythm in that. And then even Zombie Zoo at the end, which I never used to like, I now think actually that's a really good, fun pop song, you know. Now, side one, obviously, you've got Free Falling, which is good but way overplayed. I Won't Back Down, good, way overplayed. Love is a Long Road, possibly my least favorite song on the album. It seems a bit meat and potatoes rock. Facing the Crowd, brilliant. And then Running Down a Dream, good but overplayed. So, you know, I think side one essentially overplayed with maybe one slight, not clunker, but a song I don't think is particularly great. But side two, very enjoyable from start to finish and much fresher because less overplayed. So there we go. Full Moon Fever. Tom.
I agree. Side two's always been my favorite of that album, even though Free Falling's been my favorite single.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Running Down a Dream. It's okay. Whenever I hear
Mm.
it, I enjoy it, but I never think of, if I want to hear a Tom Petty song, let's play
Yeah.
Running Down a Dream. But I totally agree. Side two.
Yeah,
Right.
those two songs, Love is a Long Road and Running Down a Dream, I don't really hear the Jeff Lynne in those. They sound more just like arena rock,
Yes, I
a
know.
bit sort of standard. Whereas side two now, I hear the Jeff Lynne thing coming through much more strongly. So anyway, there we go.
Well, this is an album. I think it's okay. The whole album is all right, but side two is definitely better than side one, and it's one of my least favorite by this band.
Hmm.
Nice Synchronicity. Now, this is where I fell into the trap because all the singles, funny enough, or on, well, three of the four of them are on side two. So side two, you get Every Breath You Take, which is great. You get King of Pain, which is good. Wrapped Around Your Finger, which is good. And Teen Sahara, which is the second best track off this album. I really do enjoy that. The side one's a bit of a mess, really, because you've got Synchronicity 1, which
Hmm.
is sort of all arms, yo, let's call for arms, which I don't really like it. Walking in Your Footsteps is boring. What's the other one called? Oh my God, it's dreadful. Oh my God, it is dreadful. But Get Mother, which everyone hates, which I really do like because it's
Hmm.
different. It's the Andy
Hmm.
Summers one. Going into Miss Gradenko, which I also like.
Hmm.
Synchronicity 2 is one of those oh, songs. It's not The Police for me. The
Hmm.
Police almost called reggae. By far, this is the American album, really. This
Hmm.
is the Does America, and I can understand why it was so huge there. But by far, Side 2 is better, even though it's not
Hmm.
fantastic anyway.
In terms of singles, it's the opposite way around with the previous one, isn't it? Because Ghost in the Machine side one starts out with three singles, doesn't it? As far as I can remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wasn't
Secret.
going to pick that because the next two tracks on that side are dreadful. Hungry for You and Demolition Man or something like
Oh,
that.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Not an album that I bonded with a huge amount over the years. You know, like you say, all three singles are great, but yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Right, so I'm going to move on now to the Beach Boys. And now I know you're not a fan really of 70s Beach Boys. I'm more of a fan, but I will accept that their 70s output is terribly patchy. You get individual songs that are really good, and then you just get stuff which is just like, oh God. And this album is no different. They sound like they're just overthinking everything, overproducing everything, and they're sort of trying to find a sound or trying to get their pop hooks back into shape again. But obviously, you know, Brian's in terrible shape. Side one doesn't really do anything for me particularly. It's got Disney Girls on it, which is the kind of big famous song, and which is the Brian Johnston moment, isn't it? But it's not a song I'm particularly fond of. I find it a bit cloying. Side one really lets the side down with the student demonstration time by Mike Love, which is possibly the worst song the Beach Boys
Yeah.
ever did. I've never managed to get through it all. It's just absolutely dreadful. Now, when I first got this album, I turned it over, listened to side two. I say turned it over, I had it on CD to be fair. But but I mean, side two, it starts out with Feel Flows, finishes off with Surfs Up. Feel Flows, I think, is a great, great underrated song. It's a Carl Wilson track. It's very slow and psychedelic and very dreamy, but I think it's incredibly ahead of its time. very, very modern sounding, just some brilliant psychedelic textures in that song. I've always loved it. Surf's Up, obviously, the song at the end of the side is one of Brian Wilson's greatest ever songs. Still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand on end, makes time stand still, really, I think, towards the back end of it. The stuff that's in the middle is not as good as that, but it's still better than what's on side two. A Day in the Life of a Tree, Until I Die are both quite kind of, peaceful, floaty songs. The whole side just flows together. That's the thing. It's just a very gentle, flowing side. Starts out with Field Flows. That kind of, sets the scene, very psychedelic, very woozy. And it just seems to kind of flow on into Surf's Up, Works a Treat. I don't really need to listen to side one. I just think it's mostly quite weak. Take a Load Off Your Feet, the third song, it's just really annoying, and then you've got the Might and Love song as well. So for me, that's a definite, side two brilliant, side one almost crap, really, quite clear.
I have to play that again. I do have the album, and I know a few of the songs, but I'm not overly familiar with it. But I do like track Surf's Up.
Okay.
Right. This might be a bit of a surprise that I'm actually showing this. But I do think side two is better than side one of Dire Straits' Communique. Now, I think the reason why is whenever I was a student, one of my friends, Steve, he was lodging with his family, and the family had a CD player. And he always, whenever I went down to visit and they were out working, Steve would put on this CD. But he always started at track 5, which is the start of side 2 in this, which is Lady Writer, which is almost like a copycat of Sultans of Swing, but I think it's really good. His guitar work, Mark Knopfler's guitar work is brilliant in it. And then Angel of Mercy, which I've done videos, I've mentioned in videos that should have been a single. Portobello Bell got onto that greatest hits. Which one is it called? Money for Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Single Handed Sailor is a really good funky track with the brilliant rhythm guitar of David Knopfler. Now, the last track, Follow Me Home, lets it down a little bit. It's a bit boring. But side one, it starts off well with Once Upon a Time in the West. News is not great. Where Do You Come, or Where Do You Think You're Going is not great. And Communique is a good song. So 2 good songs out of 4, 50%. 4 good songs out of 5, which is 80%. So Dire Straits Communique from 1979.
I can't comment, Richard. I've never heard that album, I'm afraid.
It's very similar to the first one,
Yeah.
but it's better, in my view.
Okay.
Overall.
I shall endeavour to listen to it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I've got to my last one now, and this is going to be a repeated artist. So it's somebody that was in my side one list. I don't know what you're going to make of this. I'm not slagging off side one at all. This is just my own personal preference. Side 2 of this record, I think, is one of the greatest things that he ever did. And it's just a side of music which has always hugely appealed to me. And it's side 2 of Heroes.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
I nearly picked that.
Did you?
Yeah, but I didn't want to have 2 artists to see it, or 2 to see in this. That was going to be in my list. Apart from the title track Heroes, side 2 is perfect. Obviously, nothing. Sorry, it's your shot. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much about it because it's a whole video in itself, really. I love side 1 of Low. I think that's got a definite, fantastic sound to it with great songs. Side 1 of Heroes is colder. It's got a colder, more industrial kind of sound to it. The songs have never particularly touched my heart. I mean, Heroes obviously is a great song, but side 2, I just love all of it. I love the way it starts with V.T. Schneider and finishes with The Secret Life of Arabia, because it's kind of bookended with 2 more kind of upbeat kind of songs. So in between, it sort of descends gradually into this musical fog, really. It gets more, it sort of deconstructs and then deconstructs again. And so you're just left almost sort of just in this nowhere land, in the middle of nowhere. He's kind of like brought everything down. Just the final moments of, I can't pronounce it, the German word, Newcone?
I think Newcool. There's a umlaut over the O, I think.
I'll leave that one to you, Richard. Just the dying embers of his saxophone at the end of that, and then the way it goes out then into the opening guitar moments of The Secret Life of Arabia, and then the fade out of that is just one of the greatest things he ever put to tape. all those hand claps, just this endless kind of refrain disappearing off. I much prefer it to the end of Low, even though it's great, the way that Subterraneans ends Low in a very, very down place indeed. It's such a downer, isn't it? It's the ultimate downer ending. I just love the way that he ends this album. I saw a video a few years ago, I can't remember who it was, and somebody was saying the one thing that annoyed him, I think it was him, about this album is he wished The Secret Life of Arabia wasn't on it. And then it just ended with those dying saxophone notes. And I was like, no way, no way, no. The brilliance of this record is that he brings it round, and it kind of sets the scene then for Lodger, because you get the feeling that he's come out of the fog, he's come out of the mist, and he's now heading into a new direction. He's done the Berlin thing, he's kind of taken himself apart, and now he's kind of, he is moving on. I just think it's a brilliant side of music. Loved it the first time I heard it, still love it now. So side 2, Heroes.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice. You're right that the songs are very cold, like things like Blackout and Lion. They're not accessible in any way. It takes a long time to get into them. However, side 2, it took me years to really appreciate it, and it was through the CD that it clicked. So it was. Blackout used to be the worst thing he'd ever done, but I absolutely adore it with those descending notes. I think it's 4 notes. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. And then this weird kind of croaking noise, like
Yeah.
yeah, bad drugs.
Britain's Got Talent is calling us. Right, well, my final choice is the obvious one. And if anybody says, oh, name me an album where side 2 is better than side 1, they're obviously going to say Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Now, before I go further, I am not dissing side 1 at all, because it's absolutely bloody brilliant. Both sides are excellent. But there's something about side 2, the way everything flows, where you're taking snippets of songs that they couldn't do anything with, or they couldn't develop, and they join them together. It's just a mark of genius. Side 1's fine. My least favorite track off side 1, however, you probably won't agree with me, is Oh Darling. I think it's too much like the 50s. But side 2 starts with Here Comes the Sun. I think the whole thing is a medley rather than from Because or You Never Give Me Your Money. Now, Because the harmonies are absolutely wonderful. You Never Give Me Your Money is great. Sun King, even though it's a bit of a steal, but who cares? Albatross. Then Mean Mr. Mustard and Polythene Palm. Now, have you heard Her Majesty between those two songs?
Yeah.
I think it works as well. However, I'm glad they changed it and they put Her Majesty on at the very end, because it always reminds me of like a movie, or you're watching the TV. Way back in the 70s, you were watching TV, and as the channel was shutting down, it comes on. Or you're watching a movie in the picture house or the cinema, and everybody runs out before the national anthem. So otherwise you have to stand, and you go bam. And this but she came in through the bathroom window. Now that was covered, I think. Was that covered by Joe Cocker?
Yes.
I find it very difficult to understand how any of those songs are covered by anything, because they're not really fully developed, if you see what I mean. And so I haven't heard. I must actually check, see what his version's like. And then you get Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, and then the end, which is absolutely brilliant. Now, the end is really a rock out, because I used to think that the rocking part was part of Carry That Weight, but it's not. It's part of the end. And then you get the final lyrics, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, which is perfect. No, so although it's a perfect album, I still say side 2 has the edge over side 1.
Maybe the only acceptable drum solo ever waxed, you think? The Ringo Starr drum solo. I mean, people slag off drum solos, don't they? And say, we don't need a drum solo on a record. But that one is uniquely short, I suppose. It's short, isn't it? Measured.
Short.
Just perfect.
Yes, perfect. I don't think it's too complicated either, what he's doing.
No.
Because I actually listened to that and I thought, Ringo's drum solo. And I thought, well, every other drummer could do that as well. It still works.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
difficult. It's difficult to keep your right foot doing the steady dum, 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 as you do in the fills. It's hard. Occasionally, your foot wants to follow your hands. It is more difficult than it sounds, which I think is true for quite a lot of Ringo Starr drumming songs. You know, they sound deceptively kind of easy. I agree with you about "Oh Darling." It's my least favorite song on side one. Um, yeah, I can't really argue with that. I mean, it's one of those sides of music which does tend to divide opinion. I do know people who don't like it. Um, I think it works fine. I don't think Abbey Road is the greatest album the Beatles did. I know it's your favorite, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I think it sends them off a treat. You know, the way that it kind of builds to that final, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. I mean, you can't imagine a kind of greater epitaph, really. So I'm pleased you chose that. I did think of maybe having it, but I decided not to. So good stuff. I feel like we've covered a lot of good ground there, and we've each, broadly speaking, we've agreed with each other in the most part. There was only a couple of "How Very Dare You" moments, and I think they were both me, which is quite surprising.
yes,
Um, so thank you very much, Richard, for joining me for that. That was highly enjoyable.
thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you.
And yeah, so viewers, let us know either what you thought of what we said about those sides, side one, side two. Did we say anything wrong that you disagree with, or are there any records that spring to your mind that we haven't thought of? So let us know in the comments, and we'll be glad to read those. So thank you, Richard, once again, and I'm sure you'll be back on the channel at some point in the near future.
Thank you, James, for having me.
No problem. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.